The sound that finally made my daughter stop crying was not my voice. It was the click of my late mother's cedar document chest, right before I slid one thin envelope across the table and watched her whole fantasy lose its teeth. But that came later. That night began with a silk dress on my pantry door, a hotel keycard that was not mine, and the kind of silence a mother keeps when she is trying not to break in front of her child. My name is Claire. I am 46. I own a small estate planning firm in Boston, and until this winter, I thought I understood the difference between youthful vanity and real danger. I was wrong. Vanity pouts and gets over itself. Danger sobs into a designer pillow at dawn because the man with the helicopter chose someone else. My daughter, Noelle, is 20, brilliant when she wants to be, and recently so obsessed with marrying into obscene wealth that the rest of her life had started to rot around that single idea. She was not chasing comfort. She was chasing a story. Private aviation, summer villas, diamonds in velvet trays, a surname that would open doors before she touched the handle. She said billionaire the way devout people say miracle. I did not raise her in instability. Her father and I divorced years ago, and he lives 3 states away with his 3rd wife and a talent for calling when parenting becomes inconvenient. Still, Noelle never lacked tuition, housing, or options. I paid her rent near campus. I covered her books. I kept money aside for travel if she wanted to study abroad. What I did not fund were theatrics. Not the handbags she called investments, not the weekend in Monaco she begged for after watching some woman online claim yachts were networking. Then my brother's family cut her off. My brother Maddox married into old money and now lives in the kind of glass house people photograph from the street. He married Hartley, whose family owns half the shoreline in their town. Their life is expensive and private. Noelle had been spending more time there under the excuse of bonding with her cousins. Then Hartley called me with the flat, exhausted tone women use when they are done being gracious. Claire, I need you to handle this. Handle what? Your daughter posted from inside our home again. The wine cellar, the back terrace. She tagged the location on purpose this time. She sent screenshots. Noelle on their dock in borrowed sunglasses. Noelle at their marble kitchen island with a caption about manifesting the right lifestyle. Noelle in a guest suite mirror with one of Hartley's cashmere throws draped over her arm. Hundreds of comments from girls asking where she met men like this. A smug reply from my daughter underneath one of them. Start in the right rooms. I went cold inside. When Noelle came back to my townhouse that evening, she breezed in smelling like amber perfume and winter air, carrying pastries she definitely had not paid for. She kissed my cheek like nothing was wrong. I need your phone, I said. Her expression changed so fast it almost frightened me. Why? Because your aunt sent me screenshots. She tried to laugh. Oh my god, is this about the boathouse thing? Everyone posts everything. She is so dramatic. I held out my hand. Phone. She did not hand it over at first. Instead, she set the pastry box down and said, "You people act like rich families are sacred temples." It was a staircase, Mom, not nuclear codes. The words "you people" hit me harder than the rest. I asked once more, calmly. She gave me the phone, but not before deleting something. I saw the shake in her thumb and the flash of panic in her eyes. I said nothing then. That night, I found the hotel keycard in the pocket of the silk dress on my pantry door. The logo belonged to a waterfront hotel where rooms cost more per night than my first apartment's monthly rent. The card was from a private elevator, not a lobby restroom, not a brunch table, a private elevator. I stood there with that little rectangle between my fingers and understood that this had moved past embarrassing and into dangerous. The next morning, I woke to the sound of Noelle crying into her mattress. Not dainty tears, not frustration, grief. I sat on the edge of her bed and rubbed her back. Talk to me. She turned away. There's nothing to talk about. Then tell me why you sound like your heart is being torn out. She snapped. Because I am running out of time. I stared at her. You are 20. You don't understand. The good men lock in early. The rich ones get approached by girls who know what they are doing. If I don't fix this now, I'll end up with some average man in some average suburb, begging him to help with groceries while he plays golf twice a month and calls that ambition. There are moments when your own child sounds like a stranger wearing your daughter's face. That was one of them. Noelle, a stable life is not a punishment. For you, maybe? She sat there, eyes swollen, hair stuck to one cheek. You think struggle is noble because you survived it. I don't. I want ease. I want beauty. I want to be chosen by someone whose life is already above all this. All this, meaning me, my house, my work, my life. I left the room before I said something cruel. By Monday, the practical damage arrived. A senior partner from a client firm forwarded a message she had sent him on a professional networking platform after midnight. She told him she admired disciplined men, that she preferred older providers, and that his photographs from St. Bart's made him look like the type of husband a smart girl builds with. There was a lipstick emoji at the end. I stared at that message in my office until the screen blurred. An hour later, another one came in from a wealth manager I knew through a charity board. Same pattern, suggestive compliments, questions about his travel schedule, a hint that she was more discreet than girls her age. I wanted to crawl out of my skin. That evening, my sister Greer called and made everything worse. You need to stop coddling her, she said before I even got hello out. I'm not coddling her. You pay her rent. You replaced her phone last fall. You keep rescuing her from consequences and then act shocked when she thinks life is a showroom. I gripped the kitchen counter so hard my wrist hurt. She is my daughter, and she is circling predators with lip gloss and a fantasy disorder. Later that night, Noelle came downstairs downstairs in loungewear, eyes puffy but composed, too composed. She asked whether she could borrow my car to clear her head. I said no. She smiled. My daughter only smiled like that when she had found another route. If you're listening while folding laundry, driving home, or hiding from your own family for 10 quiet minutes, like this story, subscribe, and stay with me. Some women do not realize they are standing at the edge of a cliff until the view changes underneath them. Alright, now let me take you back. I checked her public profiles that night. There were 3 of them. One polished, one flirtatious, one almost anonymous, except she followed herself on all 3, which is how mothers catch things daughters think are clever. I sat at my dining table with cold tea and watched the algorithm explain my child to me. Videos of women sneering that love was a scam poor people invented. Posts claiming beauty mattered only as leverage. Reposted clips praising old money men because they were trained from birth to provide. Mockery of wives who built things with their husbands instead of selecting a finished empire. Then I found the part that made my stomach turn. A subscription receipt, proudly captioned as an investment in her future. She had paid for an elite creator mentorship run by a woman whose entire persona was luxury dependence. Fur coats, ski vacations, shopping sprees financed by faceless men. The promises were worse. Build your high-value identity. Learn elite male psychology. Monetize feminine softness. Noelle had written beneath the screenshot, "Best money I ever spent." When I confronted her, she did not deny it. "You were not supposed to see that," she said. "You were not supposed to be coached by a stranger who teaches girls how to bait rich men." Her chin lifted. "She teaches personal branding. She teaches delusion." That was when my husband Wilder walked in from the garage and made the mistake of trying to soften the room. "Maybe lower your voice," he said quietly. "She's ashamed already." Noelle looked at him with instant gratitude, and something bitter moved through me. Wilder had been in her life since she was 13. He loved her. He also mistook gentleness for usefulness when the stakes got ugly. "No," I said, still looking at her. "Shame would be a good start." Wilder flinched. Noelle burst into tears so suddenly that for 1 second I thought I had misjudged everything. Then she wailed, "You don't get it," and slid to the floor beside the island like her bones had gone out from under her. I crouched down. "Then make me get it." For a long time, all I got were fragments. A hotel party, a friend from campus, men with watches worth more than cars, being overlooked, then finally one name, one detail, one rotten seed at the center of the whole obsession. A boy from her program, not a billionaire's son. Worse, a local developer's son with trust money, magazine features, and the kind of face that gets girls careless. Noelle had wanted him. Her closest friend had landed him. And somewhere in the fallout, according to my daughter, that girl had done something inside my own family that left me sitting still on the kitchen tile, trying not to show her how furious I had become. Because the moment Noelle finally told me what that girl had taken from her, I knew this story was not about a billionaire at all. It was my key fob, not the one on my ring. The backup digital pass tied to our family account, the one Hartley had approved for holiday access at their place years ago. Noelle's former friend had used my daughter's phone to photograph it when the girls were at my brother's house, then copied it into one of those luxury group chats so they could joke about getting into the right rooms. My daughter said it in gasps, ashamed and defensive at once, and I felt the room turn still around us. "What exactly did she do with it?" I asked. "At first, nothing. They thought it was funny. They wanted to see if they could get past the side entrance when there were events, just to blend in, to meet people." "Did they?" A pause, then yes. Wilder muttered something and walked away. I stayed kneeling in front of my daughter. "Tell me everything." What came out over the next hour was uglier than I expected, and smaller. There had been no secret society of billionaires, no hidden circle of heirs waiting to notice clever girls in hotel bars. It was mostly access theater, charity receptions where students volunteered just to linger near donors, private club brunches where girls got invited by older interns who knew the bartenders, off-campus parties in borrowed apartments, men with expensive shoes and last names that made girls stupid. The friend Tinsley had been better at it, better timing, better instinct for making men feel like hunters when they were really being studied. Noelle had not just lost some imaginary prize. She had built her whole identity around competing in a game she kept losing. "Did this Tinsley use my access at Maddox's house?" I asked. Noelle nodded miserably. "One time, maybe twice, and you let her. I thought if I looked connected, people would take me seriously." That was the sentence that cracked something open in me. My daughter had not been chasing love, or even money, in the purest sense. She had been trying to outrun ordinariness with borrowed ceilings over her head. The next morning, I called Maddox before business hours. He answered on the second ring. "Please tell me this is solved." "It is about to be. I need the security logs from the side entrance for every weekend event since October." Silence. Then, "Claire, I know exactly how that sounds. I also know you have logs." Hartley got on the line a moment later. "We do. Why?" "Because Noelle finally told me enough to know she wasn't the only girl using my name to drift through your life." By noon, I had timestamps, still images, and every ounce of rage I had been trying to contain. Tinsley had indeed entered through the side service door at one winter fundraiser, using a copied access image from Noelle's phone. Noelle was with her the first time. The second time, she was not. But that was not the real proof. The real proof came from a source I had not expected. Greer called me from campus. "I just saw your daughter's ex-friend outside the student center." she said, and you need to know something. Greer taught communications there and heard everything because students treated calm women like furniture. Tinsley apparently had been telling people Noelle only got invited anywhere because her mother handled wills for old rich families and fed her names, that I had trained my daughter to network upward, that I was bitter because I had married for comfort instead of status, and wanted Noelle to succeed where I hadn't. I sat in my office and felt my face go hot, then cold. There it was. Not just home, not just family, not just danger, reputation. By evening, I had done something Noelle had not expected from me. I asked her to get dressed. She looked wary. For what? For dinner. She blinked. You're not serious. I am. Simple dress, hair up. Mom, if this is some lecture in public, I'm not going. It isn't a lecture, it is a correction. We drove to a charity gallery opening in Beacon Hill, hosted by a hospital board I sat on twice a year. Noelle had never attended with me because it bored her. That night, she wore navy silk and almost no jewelry and looked exactly like what she always claimed she wanted to become. Polished, composed, expensive without asking permission. At the entrance, she whispered, "Why am I here?" To learn the difference between wealth and spectacle. Inside, I introduced her to women she had never imagined as the center of the room. A trauma surgeon whose husband taught public school. A founder who sold her company and now funded shelters. A museum trustee who had turned down 3 proposals before marrying a jazz pianist. No private jet posturing. No desperate scanning for prey. Just competence, humor, and the kind of stillness that comes from not needing to advertise your price. Noelle smiled where appropriate, listened, nodded. I watched confusion replace performance one conversation at a time. Then Tinsley walked in. Of course she did. She was on the arm of a blonde man in a dinner jacket, older than her by at least 15 years, and she froze the second she saw us. Noelle's body went rigid beside me. I leaned in and said, "Breathe. Do not chase. Do not flinch." Tinsley recovered fast. She drifted over with the syrupy cruelty pretty girls perfect early. "Noelle, wow, you came with your mom." Her eyes flicked over me with that tiny, up-down scan meant to insult without evidence. Then she smiled wider. "Mrs. Rowan, I have heard so much about you. I'm sure you have." The man at her side extended a hand. "Rhodes." I shook it once. "Claire." Tinsley started to speak again, but before she could, Hartley appeared behind us in black velvet. My brother's wife had been invited too. I had texted her earlier and said only this: "Come if you want to watch a door close." Hartley looked directly at Tinsley and said in a voice soft enough to be devastating, "So you're the student who thought trespassing in my home made her look expensive." The color left Tinsley's face. Rhodes frowned. "Excuse me?" Hartley did not even look at him. She handed Tinsley a plain white envelope. "This includes still images, access logs, and notice that if my property or my children appear on any account tied to you again, we will proceed formally." The silence around us spread in ripples. Nearby conversation dimmed. Not theatrical enough to be called a scene, but public enough, controlled enough, precise. Tinsley turned to Noelle, desperate and mean at once. "You told them? Are you insane? You were there too." Noelle's mouth parted. I could feel the old instinct rising in her, the one that wanted to scramble and plead and prove she was still inside the game. I touched the inside of her wrist. Once, she understood. My daughter straightened and said very calmly, "I told the truth. That's different." Rhodes looked from the envelope to Tinsley to Hartley and quietly removed Tinsley's hand from his arm. "I don't do liability," he said. Then he walked away. Tinsley stood there, humiliated in the exact currency she worshipped most. Not screamed at, not slapped, just downgraded in real time. She hissed at Noelle. "You're pathetic. You'd still trade places with me." Noelle's chin trembled. For one frightening second, I thought she would. Then she said, "A month ago? Maybe? Tonight? No?" Tinsley left before anyone could pity her. On the drive home, Noelle stared out the window for so long, I assumed she was rebuilding some new delusion in the dark. Instead, she said, barely audible, "They were all normal." Who? The women in there. Not normal exactly. Just not hungry the way the internet says they should be. I kept my eyes on the road. Hungry people are easy to sell things to. She laughed once, and it sounded like grief leaving through a narrow door. The next weeks were not magical. I do not trust stories that turn a person around with one speech and one humiliation. Noelle withdrew from the creator program and disputed the fee. She did not get the money back, but she stopped posting for a while, which was worth more to me. She agreed to therapy, and after a few sessions of icy silence, began talking enough that her therapist asked whether I would join once every other week. I said yes before she finished asking. At university, she retook the courses she had nearly abandoned. Greer helped her build a tutoring schedule. Wilder stopped cushioning every sharp edge and started asking better questions. My brother reinstated contact only after Noelle wrote Hartley a handwritten apology with no excuses in it. Then came the envelope from my mother's cedar chest. My mother had believed in exact records. After she died, I inherited her document chest. Inside was a letter addressed to be opened if Noelle ever confused image for inheritance. I had found it months earlier, then tucked it away. That night, after the gallery, I opened it with my daughter at the kitchen table. Inside was a short note in my mother's sharp hand, and a statement from an education trust she had funded years before for Noelle alone. Not enormous money, enough for graduate school or seed capital for a business, or a down payment if used wisely. The note said, family wealth should make a woman freer, not purchasable. Noelle cried harder reading that than she had over any man, not because it made her rich, because it exposed how cheap her dream had become. By spring, she cut her hair to her shoulders, got a campus job in the writing center, and stopped talking about jets like they were emotional oxygen. Once, while we were making soup, she said, I think I wanted to be envied more than loved. It was one of the ugliest, honest things I had ever heard, which made it one of the best. I kissed the side of her head and said, good, now you can build a life you don't have to perform. She did.